Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. We're about to jump into analyzing Stephano vs. Titan game number 3. But first, let me remind you guys, if you're interested in any of the cool graphical features that you saw in that last promo, if you think, that looks pretty cool, I want to learn how to do that. That could be a cool thing to do as a daily job. Let me tell you, you can actually do that and get paid good money doing so. It's called game development, graphic design. There's also audio engineering. Of course, it's a little bit harder to show in a promo. There's a lot of cool things that all are done to build video games. Every video game company needs people working for them. Every esports company like us needs people making our graphics. So it's a great opportunity to get a career. Go to www.fullsail.edu for more information on potential opportunities to educate yourself in that specific field. Let's talk about game number 3, though, between Stephano and Titan. In this one, Titan opts to do a 2-base blink stalker attack. So first we're going to talk about how to execute that 2-base blink stalker attack. Then we're going to talk about the key aspects to defending a 2-base blink stalker attack. And then, as a Protoss player, if your opponent is like Stephano and they're insanely good and have a strong defense, some ways you can react to that to try to make the best out of a bad situation. So let's jump into this game here, and it's going to be the 2-base blink stalker attack. So as we can see here, it's 920, and this is a little bit of a longer map, so it's hitting slightly later than you might sometimes ideally see it, but it's still good. There's two key concepts behind a blink stalker attack. The most important, well, they're both equally important. The two key concepts are one, you want to put pressure on your Zerg opponent, scare them, so that they stay low tech, right? Because you want them to stay on roaches and zerglings. You do not want them to get infestation pit, spire. Well, spire's okay. You don't want them to get infestation pit, too many upgrades, a swarm of hydralisks, things like this. You want to force them to stay on low tech units, right? So you want to scare them. But then the other thing is you want to make sure you don't lose any stalkers, because if they're low tech, eventually you'll get a stalker count that's very big. As stalkers scale up with blink, they will beat roaches and zerglings. In small numbers, not so well. So you got to make sure you don't lose any stalkers at all. And unfortunately, that means don't charge too far into creep before your blink tech's done, or else you can take a couple losses, unfortunately, a little bit earlier than you want, waiting for that blink tech to finish. So it's really, really important to just, put a little bit of pressure on. Don't commit too far until you're sure you can get out of there, right? That's the two key aspects to executing this attack, of course. Then you just want to focus on defensively microing the blink to keep your stalkers alive as long as possible. Now the next thing that's important, we're just going to set it to follow Roach here, is about defending this 2-base timing attack, right? So what you want to do is watch what Stephano does. You get a group of roaches just like this, and as you push up, you run into the stalker army, and as you see how he runs inside him, boom, you run inside him, and then you A-move. Let me actually just pause this right here, right? You run inside the army. And the reason why I do that is because if you run inside that army, they have no idea which stalker to blink, right? If you're a Protoss player here, which stalker is going to be attacked next? Well, it could be one of these guys, or maybe this guy, or maybe this guy, or it might have been these guys which just actually blink backwards. So what do? You blink all of them, and now all your stalkers are on blink cooldown. So the next attacks you can't dodge because you're all on cooldown. Or you blink none of them and then they all die. Like, you just can't blink, right? Whereas, I mean, you can blink, but it's obviously, it loses a lot of its effectiveness because you can't anticipate which ones are going to be focused. Now, the alternative, imagine if he just, let me get back in the game here. Back this up just a tiny bit, right? Now, in this situation here, we're going to pause it forward here. All right, let's say he starts fighting. Let's move it forward a little bit more. All right, here. Right here. Right? If he just attack moves instead of running into the army here, and you're a Protoss player, right, and you're just fighting an attack move situation, you've got your warpins, you know exactly what to do. As soon as you see the roaches open their jaws up, you say, I'll blink this guy and this guy back here. Right? And what that'll do is I'll dodge your entire roach volley, because you can blink while that volley is in midair. And then the next volley, right? Then I'll blink. This is first blink. And then these guys, this will be the second blink will be these two. Sorry, it's kind of crowded in there. But the idea is you can blink in rows. Each row will dodge an entire roach volley. And the Zerg player is going to lose several volleys of attacks before all the Stalkers' blink cooldowns are exhausted. and they don't know what to do. And then, I mean, then the roaches are mostly dead by that point. But of course, Stephano, being a world-class player with his defense, he does an attack move to let Titan use it. I think he runs into the army, and now you see Titan has to blink all the stalkers instantly. And when you blink all the stalkers instantly, you don't have that cooldown anymore, and then the roaches can just tear him up because they don't have that blink ability anymore. So that's the key, really cool thing to defending that that blink attack. It's a really important micro concept, and it really is what separates players like Stephano from your average like high master Zerg. Is just understanding exactly what to do with the units. Of course, he's not only microing these roaches, but he's macroing behind him as well. He's at 150 food at the 11-minute mark. Wow, he was all in, right? I mean, this is what makes this guy such an amazing player. Just phenomenal skill. So, I mean, from here on, it's all downhill for Titan. He's kind of screwed. But the last thing I want to talk about is, let's say you're Titan and you're in this position. And, oops, let me fast forward just a little bit. Okay, you're in this position, and you see, okay, my opponent has a strong defense. He's got a lot of roaches. And I know he's Stephano, so he'll micro them well. If he's got a lot of roaches and he micros them well, I can't break him, right? So you got to come up with a way to deal with it, right? You're not in the best situation, but you're not in the worst situation either. In fact, let's take a look at how the game stands right now. If you look at the food, it doesn't look that good. If you look at the income, you're down by about 15 workers. You're 2 bases versus 3. But an important thing to note is that you've got +2 weapons done, right? You've got blink tech done, right? Your opponent only has a single attack upgrade, and they don't have a Hydra Descend, they don't have Infestation Pet, they don't have Spire. So yeah, you're down by 15 workers, but you've got a tech advantage. So what you can do is, I mean, you can try to hope they mess up their micro, which is often that actually might be the best choice more often than not. Just hope they mess up the micro and you can micro for a win. But another option, I want to give you guys another option, is just do a full-out retreat, right? And at home, you warp in just a couple sentries, and you start building your robotics, or maybe even double robotics facilities. You wait for the sentries to regen energy, build up a stalker count, then you go up and take a third base. Now, yes, your opponent can drone up and tech up while you're doing this, but at the end of the day, you'll be behind, but you'll build up a sentry blink stalker army with a couple of mortals and some observers, and if your opponent stays on roaches too long, you'll have this massive anti-roach killing army. You can defend your third base with good force fields, and you'll be in a great position to go on further if they commit too much to roaches. You just got to be scouting, make sure you don't do a muta switch. They go to high tech, then you're going to have to probably add an air or a storm or colossi or something. But you got to make that split-second decision. If you see this many roaches, right, this many roaches right here, you see these guys, just give it up. Say, you know what, I'm just going to run all the way home and try to make a follow-up attack later, maybe with the mortals and sentries, or just follow up third base. Play it slow. The bad news is these roaches will hold your attack. The good news is these roaches are going to be weaker in the late game, so at least while your opponent's ahead in economy, they've made an investment that won't pay off in the late game, so you just got to try to wheelsy your way through to that late game. That wraps it up for game number 3, Stephano, with just decisive, amazing macro and great roach control throughout that series. We'll take a short break and be right back with the question and answer period.